you describe kind of what it felt like in there to experience that?
Cara, na realidade eu perdi o movimento do lado esquerdo inteiro.
Yeah, it really wasn't exactly that. You know, I lost movement on my left side in there in the fight. And I think a lot of people didn't know what I explained what it was. So they talked about the esophagus and all of that. But, you know, the reality of it was an injury to my neck. There were talks that I could have been paralyzed because of that. But the reality of it is that I lost movement on my left side. You know, it was no joke. You know, I was told that in the ambulance, the guys were trying to put an IV in my arm and I wouldn't even feel it because I just couldn't feel my left side. So I was scared that my career was over at that moment.
Islam Makhachev, brother.
How are you?
I'm so happy to see you.
You want to get a photo?
For sure. Muito foto kadam.
I'll take it.
Okay.
I did some training this morning. Then we got home, we rest, and we train again.
Okay.
Gonna practice some wrestling.
Yes, for sure.
See you later, guys. Enjoy your day.
Long, short, sit long. It's good. That's right.
Yes, sir.
Let's wrestle now.
Watch out, watch.
No biting, no biting. No biting.
Easy.
No biting.
Watch.
Yeah, man.
You see that guy that got his
What is the biggest takeaway that you've seen, Khalil?
Well, there's a lot of things, but I'd say the number one thing is I think KHAMZAT has great leadership. You know, not only is he the champion, but like in my eyes, like being a champion comes with responsibility. You can be a champion and you can just talk a bunch of crap and you can just blow your life away and spend your money all types of ways like we've seen a lot of champions do. But one thing that I respect as like KHAMZAT as champion is that he's got amazing leadership. And look at the guys that are coming behind him. That shows they're following his lead, not just by what he says.
Look at the love they have for each other as well.
Not just by what he says, but by like how he lives his life, how he carries himself in a room, how he trains. They're all looking at this and they're like, I want to do the same thing. So in my mind, so far, especially of our time, I feel like he's the best champion right now. He's got so many things going well for him and for the guys. So I think that's what really is like stands out the most.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's not something that I'm happy about. So what I would say is when the announcement of the Paramount, big money partnership came, people was asking me, how do you, excited about this? And my answer was, well, what does that mean for the fighters? Until we understand how that's going to translate to the fighters, there's nothing to really be excited about. And then, I heard about the if you want to call it an increase in bonus structure, and this is why I wasn't bothered to be excited initially, because for me that doesn't do enough comparatively to the amount of money that they've just brought in for themselves. And then to see obviously, Dana White, he's always been quite excited about going into the kind of the boxing world and kind of doing other things like the slap fighting and all that kind of stuff. But then to see it and how quickly he values people away from, how highly he values people away from a sport that kind of built his reputation. It's just upsetting, to be fair. It's disappointing more than anything. And that's probably all I'll say on that. I feel like we have deserved more. I hate hearing stories of fighters getting to what is the pinnacle of your career in terms of the UFC and still being broke. It just shouldn't exist unless you're just completely terrible with money. It just shouldn't exist that you're struggling from fight to fight, and it just shouldn't be a thing. I feel like when you, in any other sport, when you get to the pinnacle, there's a lot of other things that are settled in your life, at least for the period that you're competing at. So yeah, like I said, it's just disappointing to still be here. This is something that people have complained about for a long time, even like, the likes of Francis Ngannou, being the heavyweight champion of the world and borrowing money from a friend of his, Usman, who was obviously kind enough to, gift him some money and help him out in dire times. But why was he even in that situation is the question for me. So again, the only thing I can say is just disappointing. So more than anything.
For you and Anderson Silva, my two idols.
That's my goal. Still, Alligator Fuck, I don't think he likes me. I don't know why. I love, even till this day, I love Anderson Silva, and I love his son, KHALIL. Me and him talk on and off.
Yeah.
Man, Silva, I don't know why, for whatever reason, it's almost like, notice me, senpai. Notice me. But I mean, I love Silva no matter what. Like, I'm always gonna be a fan of him. But I just feel like, man, maybe because I beat him, that didn't help. But I just thought that was a cool exchange. Like, and maybe it's just in my head. Maybe it's just me.
I think that it's because of his records. He was close then, and some people was like, "Oh, is the great middleweight," and he was like, "Oh no."
That's ego. Again, that's ego. Because there was one, I can't remember what it was. I never got to see it, but David told me after one of my fights when I lost, he put this tweet up and then deleted it. And then David expressed to me what the tweet kind of said, and I was like, "Oh, well, that sucks," because I look up to the guy. But again, that's just the child in me. Like, I'm a grown man now, but the child in me still goes, Anderson, no. But hey, it is what it is.
Because there's rumors with Paramount that, because the contract was so big that I think DC maybe was saying that people are getting paid more, and Gaethje kind of came out and said, no, I'm not getting paid $1 more. Like, have you renegotiated with them?
I have 2 more fights on my deal. So I don't know. Ideally, I'll probably go and renegotiate. UFC really doesn't like when people fight their contract out, because then you can start getting offers from other people. It's like, where the fuck else we want to go? You know what I'm saying? Maybe do some boxing thing, but typically they don't want you to fight your contract out. So I'm assuming next time I go to Vegas in March, I'm gonna renegotiate my contract. Technically it should be bigger than the last contract anyways. Like, that's usually how it goes. The next contract's bigger than, especially because I'm coming off a win. I've realistically lost 1 fight. You can call it 2 if you want. It's to the same guy.
I mean, I'll call 3.
It's been 1. It's been 1, if we're being honest here. ChatGPT said. But so the next contract should be bigger anyway. How much bigger now that Paramount is, the UFC is paying athletes more? I don't know.
After her 2 high-profile losses in the UFC, first to Holly Holm and later to Amanda Nunes, Rousey has publicly talked about how concussion-like symptoms affected her fighting career. She said that even relatively light strikes used to trigger severe neurological effects, like loss of vision and brain fog.
It was at the point where the next fight, the first time I got touched, I was out on my feet. And it's so hard because I'd never been faster, never been stronger, never had a better grasp of the game. I'd never been so much better than everybody else. Mm-hmm. But your brain doesn't callous. It doesn't heal back stronger after a break. It's just an inevitable decline, and I just couldn't keep fighting at a level anymore. I'd taken punishment until I couldn't take it anymore, and then when I got to the point that I couldn't take it anymore, then I was like vilified as like, oh, she was all hype and she was just lucky, and she, you know, and people making all these judgments about me in a fight where I was literally, my first loss, I was not like, my mouth guard was bad. I literally came into that fight concussed from slipping down some stairs already after all of these years of, you know, concussions. And then I had absolutely terrible weight cut, which, you know, that means you have less fluid in your brain to protect it. And I was out on my feet for the entire fight. I was just trying to make it look like I wasn't hurt, like, but I wasn't there cognitively. I couldn't think as fast. I couldn't judge distance. And just from that one fight, everybody felt like, oh, she's a fraud. And I know that, like, I'm the greatest fighter that has ever lived, but when it got to a point where I'd just taken so much neurological damage that I couldn't take it anymore, suddenly everything that I accomplished meant nothing.
Rousey is now preparing for a comeback fight against Gina Carano, slated for May 16th. Both fighters are undergoing extensive medical testing ahead of the bout. Rousey has now clarified that what she experienced was not chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, the degenerative brain disease linked to repeated head trauma. Instead, doctors at the Cleveland Clinic, after reviewing her scans and symptoms, believe her issues are related to migraine aura, a neurological reaction that can mimic concussion symptoms, but doesn't indicate brain damage like CTE. Importantly, the Cleveland Clinic specialist reportedly said that her brain looks great on scans, and there's no evidence of CTE. Some critics argue that Rousey's comments might be an excuse for her UFC losses against Holly and Nunes.
Oh, I know that I'm better than all these girls, and by a fucking long shot, and I always will be. I feel like I created the most efficient fighting style that ever created. That's ever existed.
Oh God.